God is with you.
And also with you.
Welcome to worship on this auspicious Sunday. This is the last Sunday in the church year. The church calendar does not run the same way as the secular calendar does. This is the last Sunday of our liturgical year. And next Sunday we begin a new year with the first Sunday of Advent. So this morning we wanted to take an opportunity to celebrate this particular church year. This time last year we weren't sure we'd make it through another church year, and we had all kinds of worries and trepidations and hopes and dreams. And so we want to take an opportunity to pause and to celebrate. And with any marking of a new year, there are things to be thankful for, there are things to lament, some things that we grieve together, and there are some hopes to express. So I'm delighted that Eric, who serves on our church council, but he's also a chaplain at SouthLake and is very skilled and adept at facilitating conversation. So Eric is going to lead the majority. I said to Eric this morning, he has the hard work to do today.
No, they have the hard work.
And so I invite you to participate as fully as you're able. Things are going to run a little differently. Some of you who were here a few weeks ago are familiar with this particular setup. There's coffee and tea over there. Feel free at any point during the service to replenish your coffee and tea. Communion this morning is going to take a different form. First of all, our communion will be with champagne and croissants. Or we also have sparkling fruit juice, and we have gluten-free wafers. And you will be served at table. So you get to stay where you are, and we will have communion. It will be an informal communion, and we'll give you the steps when we get closer to communion. What else do I need to tell you about this morning? We're not going to take up a formal offering. The offering plate is located here. At any time during or after the service, feel free to make your offering for this morning. I think those are all the announcements that I need to make. Yeah. As always, we gather as we live in the midst of the mystery, who is the love that we call God. Please rise and let's sing.
As you love
in every act of loving kindness, the mystery, source of all being, and the power of the Spirit is with you all.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Gathered in the midst of the one who is mystery, let us breathe deeply of the Spirit who empowers us to embody Christ here in this place. Let Christ's passion for justice flow through us so that those we meet might see love in us by our care for one another and our compassion for the stranger. Let us live into the reality that love lives in, with, through, and beyond us, now and always. Amen. Please be seated. Our gospel text this morning comes to us from the Hebrew Scriptures, the book of Ecclesiastes. There is a time for everything, a season for every purpose under heaven, a season to plant and a season to harvest, a season to hurt and a season to heal, a season to tear down and a season to build up, a season to cry, a season to laugh, a season to mourn and a season to dance, a season to scatter stones and a season to gather them in, a season for holding close and a season for holding back, a season to seek and a season to loose, a season to keep and a season to throw away, a season to tear and a season to mend, a season to be silent and a season to speak, a season to love and a season to hate, a season for hostilities and a season for peace. This is the gospel of our God. As we gather this morning, we do so as a particular kind of community, a community that, like our ancestors, and indeed like all communities, recognizes that water is a source of life, and that without water, we cannot live. And so as we begin this morning, I'm going to ask our worship assistants to circle around. If you would flip over your champagne flutes, and they're going to give you a symbol not only of the source of life, but the source of our identity as a family, our Christian identity, the waters of your baptism. And so we gather around this font, bringing to this place all of who we are, our full humanity, and our being as a particular kind of family, a Christian family immersed in the waters of our baptism.
So as Pastor Don had mentioned this morning, we are celebrating the end of the year. I don't know if you get dressed up and go out with friends for New Year's Eve. It has been a family ritual tradition of ours with friends for many years. I haven't been involved for a few years, and last time I talked to Dad, having been getting together with this group, he said, yes, but not New Year's anymore. We're all getting a little too old for that. It's hard to stay up till midnight, so we do it earlier in the day. But here we are at the end of the year, and in that gathering, it's a celebration of the year that has been, the good and the bad. A brief story about our New Year's tradition. I lost a brother when I was 4, and at that time, It was November. It was just 2 weeks ago was the anniversary of that. And that was the beginning of our New Year's celebration. Our friends and family said, this family needs something in the midst of their sorrow, in the midst of the lamenting. That was the beginning of our New Year's celebrations. And so in the midst of things that were sad, we had a lot of joy because we were surrounded by a lot of people. I don't know what your traditions might be, but there are often a blend of those things as we're looking back and we're looking forward. This morning we're going to do 3 ritual actions that sort of celebrate some of those pieces. The first is Thanksgiving, the things that we are thankful for. So we're going to do some ritual action around Thanksgiving and then have some conversation around that. This last year, what has happened here that we are thankful for? So water is our first ritual action. You've had your glasses filled with water, and I am going to invite you to come to the front and pour your water into the vessel. It's an action of our joining together, of coming together in all that we are, and the life that is sustained in water. And you know what? If it overflows, that's good. So don't worry if I don't pour it all in, because really, if we are filled with thanksgiving, it will overflow. And a reminder, as we're doing these ritual actions, if you do need to refill your coffee, that's a great time. You're already standing up, you're moving around, so I invite you to grab your glass, bring it forward, pour it into the vessel. And think, as you're coming and as you're going back, think about the things that you are thankful for here. And I'll invite you to share them in a few minutes. The ushers just did that perfect.
Yeah.
What's the chances of that? Just enough
You practiced.
that it will overflow. So over the last year, our gathering together as a community, what has been overflowing? What has been life-giving like water? What has been something or some things that you are thankful for as we look over the last year? First,
Generosity.
generosity.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit more? Types of generosity.
Well, the first one that came to mind is because I count, I see how much money people are putting in, not specifically to individuals, but the fact that we've been able to sustain ourselves through a rather financially difficult time.
So financial generosity, I was thinking it might go in a couple of different directions, but
Well,
that
that's
is,
the one that, the top of my list. I'm not suggesting that don't have generosity in other places.
as Pastor mentioned, there was some concern whether financially we would get through to this point in the year. Other things that you're thankful for?
Care for one another.
Care. Thank you, Madam. Can you say a little more in the context?
Anytime anyone is ill or needing comfort, we have the care team plus other individuals who assisted in providing whatever was needed.
Can everyone hear each other? Or should I repeat some of the things that are being said? I don't want to put words in someone else's mouth, but I want to make sure that everybody can hear.
Pat usually isn't that quiet. Just say it.
Humor. I'm thankful for the life and the humor that happens in this place.
I'm thankful for the energy the school gives me. I feel uplifted every time I leave here. I feel my batteries are being recharged, and the energy too in the committees I'm part of, or the teams I'm part of, the positive thinking and ideas we're coming up with and working together.
I'm thankful for the leadership that we have, for the people who are on council, for us, especially for Petra, for stepping into the role of chair, and for all the volunteers who make it, every Sunday a go. They put a lot of effort into it.
I'm grateful for Dawn's creativity and her never-ending quest to do some things and just look for new ways of exploring what our journey is and illuminating it differently, making me think yet again in a helpful new way.
Thank you. Others?
There's a general welcoming to the group. I still consider myself a newbie, but I still feel welcome. There's always people look you right in the eye, by and large, and sort of make you feel that you matter. And then the added thing, Neil invited me for a couple mornings of coffee throughout the year, which is extra. So it's another group that kind of expands the people that I come in contact with. So it's interesting.
Well, I'm grateful for the challenge and striving community. I love coming here to be pushed and we're never comfortable sitting back. So I don't think I've ever gone home after coming to the Mercury Church feeling like I don't have things to think about.
I remember, I think it was a seminary course where I heard the phrase, the gospel is there to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Sometimes we're challenged and we're pushed.
The other thing too is the adult ed thing. I mean that whole concept and discussion that it's a needed discussion, and it doesn't happen in most not on a Sunday morning in most other churches, at least in my experience.
I was just going to say about the adult ed, but on top of that, the leadership of the Global Justice Team, we've learned so much about Indigenous life and people and history through the various speakers that have been brought in. So I'm grateful for that.
The things thankful for.
I'm grateful for anger and outrage. There's a group that meets every week on Friday from noon to 1 to carry signs up and down in front of the MPP's office, and then they move out to Yonge Street, and then they move back. And there were half a dozen people out there in that blustery wind on Friday getting the message across to people that, no, this is not the way we want our society to go. So.
I don't want to exclude Dawn, who's being the camera person either. Any of her thoughts on things of thankfulness?
Two really big things. One is the music, and I love the music. Marnie's leadership and also the choir's leadership. I'm very grateful to those two things. But I'm also grateful for the people who show up here under all kinds of circumstances in our lives. It would be easier to just pull the covers up over our head and stay home. And I'm really grateful for the people who gift us with their presence.
I have opportunity to supply preach and lead worship in a few other communities. And I am grateful here for the progressive approach. So much that it challenges me when I'm in other congregations and feeling like, where's the love and the passion of God? I hear about the judgment of God in the music that they choose and in the confession that they use. And I am so grateful for the progressive approach that pushes us beyond the things that are ordinary. And that's part of our worship today, is to experience and express things that are beyond the ordinary way of doing things. Any other comments of our thankfulness for this community, this place?
I'm grateful for my wife and my pastor because I see how hard she works, even though some don't appreciate it.
Each of our three movements this morning are going to be reflected on in song. So our Thanksgiving song. Our next ritual action is around lament. And when we think of Thanksgiving, we often work from our head. When we think of lament, it's often heart and soul. So move to that space now. Not thinking through things, but feeling them. Feeling sorrow of things that may not have gone the way that we would have envisioned them gone this year. Things that you wish would have happened that didn't happen. So sometimes lament is the things that happened, and sometimes it's the things that didn't happen. I was going to say, think about that for a moment. Don't think about it if you don't. Feel for that. In the center of each table, there's a pile of stones. Stones can be something that is hard. Difficult times is what the stones symbolize. The challenges, the stumbling blocks. How many times did Jesus talk about stones being a stumbling block? Do not be a stumbling block for others. And sometimes the lament in front of us, the lament that has been behind us, has been big. It's been a big stumbling block, and we thought we wouldn't get around it or wouldn't get over it, and maybe we haven't. And sometimes the stumbling block is small. It doesn't have to be anything that's great. So I invite you to pick through that pile of stones. Pick one that you think represents some of what you bring for lament. Is it big? Is it small? Is it dark? or is it light colored? So spend a moment reflecting on what lament, what grief, what sadness you might bring to our ritual this morning, and then pick a stone and bring it forward, dropping it into the water that is already overflowing. And it will force some of our thanksgiving and some of our joy out of us. Sometimes the sadness and the lament does that. It forces those things out of us that feel like it's full. So spend a moment picking through your stones and then bring them forward and drop them into our vessel. I put in a big one and I put in 3 small ones. And the 3 small ones, for me, represent my family who are not often with me when I worship. So I lament that family community that isn't around. That's partly because the church in the past has wounded my family quite significantly. Partly because my children are not geographically close. But I lament the ability to worship with them. So those were the 3 small stones that I added to our vessel this morning. And I invite you now to share with others some of what you're grieving, what you're lamenting, what you would offer up to God. Lamenting is a big part of the Psalms. Often people offer their concerns to God and to others.
I put a really big stone in there because it really hurts me to see, or to see the empty spaces and to know who's missing. And I thought we were bigger than the issues we're having, that we would be able to discuss them and stay together. And that hurts me to see that so many friends turned their backs.
Amen to that.
What we did put on the table was tissues. My work shirt always has a pocket, and I have a pack of tissues that I always carry in my pocket just for that. So we don't run away from grief, but we immerse ourselves in it and tell someone who is grieving, I'm not going to run away from it. I'm here, and we'll cry together. Others, as you were coming forward, what was on your heart as you selected that stone, as you dropped it in, and watch it force a little bit of the joy out of our community?
Eric, I lament the issues of health as we all get older, at least most of us get older. We see it in ourselves, we see it in our loved ones, we see it in our fellow communicants here. We would like to live forever, but it's not working out that way. But that's a lament.
And that has a big part in our community as well. A number of people who have been here in the past find it a challenge to be here. We've taken steps to make the building more accessible, but that doesn't stop their age from limiting their presence with us. So the lament of age and the absence that that causes. Other things that were on your heart as you were selecting a stone, as you were bringing it forward.
I was lamenting lack of action. Specifically all the news going around this year, the climate crisis, and the lack of coherent and concerted effort. And alarmism isn't alarmism, it's terror. But there's still so little will to act.
Others. Looking back at the year, are there things to lament, both within our community or perhaps without, because we don't separate them. We are part of God's people inside our community and outside.
Well, I put a black stone in because there's a lot. It is not a large and diverse group. Now, Pat, you're sitting here, and I have a young person over here, and normally don't have a lot of young people in this grouping, in this setting, and even young adults. It doesn't happen on a regular basis, and that's concerning. I don't quite understand that. And when I say I feel like a newbie all the time, because I don't know the backstory here. I think there's a backstory going here that I don't know about, and there's things here that are perking that aren't really being spoken. I'm not really sure what we're talking about. So I feel like a little black pebble because I ought to sink.
I think it was in the last Canada Lutheran that the bishop wrote about the statistics out of the U.S. and the Lutheran Church, that we are the whitest denomination in the U.S. So that sense of lamenting the fact that we're not necessarily diverse. We may be diverse in our European heritage, but that's only a portion of the world that we reflect. Any others?
A sense that the closing the gates to the others, partisan stuff that has the we and they, and not welcoming for fear of losing what you have. And it's just like the stuff that's rooted in a lack of confidence in goodness, that there isn't enough somehow. And people aren't hearing the message and experiencing that actually this is a really rich existence. And so they're not experiencing that. And so that, just like, oh my goodness, what can I do?
Sense of heaviness. And sometimes that sense of heaviness traps us to inactivity. I'm just petrified. I can't move. Others.
I would say similar to what Petra said, but for different reasons, that not just illness or ageism, that people have not turned their backs but walked away. That I lament their absence because we were a bigger family, a bigger community, caring community. I also lament that we don't have as much community presence as I personally would like, but that may not be but that's my personal.
It's a personal opinion,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And as you mentioned, or someone mentioned, the lack of diversity in terms of youth, as well as, we have a few people of color who have attended, but not on a regular basis, and it's sometimes helpful to have more of me. Not that it's a problem for me, it's not a problem for me, but I certainly recognize it when I am among a more diversified
noticed on my way in this morning the banner on the front of the church. And for the first time, and maybe it's in there and I didn't see it, but there was no reflection of anyone with physical challenges in that grouping of people. Even though we have made our building much more accessible to those, the sign itself doesn't say, "You are welcome to." So that sense of, as much as we attempt to be inclusive, it was a moment of, oh, we've got some work to do. We always have work to do. Any other laments from this past year?
I mostly lament the constant rush. Time just doesn't enable you to do everything that's in your heart to do. Our family misses this family, and I have a medium light stone in there because as much as I can lament, I still see the light ahead, and that there's always going to be little snippets of time that we are still present with you. That's my lament, mostly.
And thank you for speaking from now. It's not a which I think is probably a good place to segue into our song. So our third ritual action moves us to that midnight hour of New Year's Eve, where you're gathering with friends and family, and you may be talking about the year ahead, New Year's resolutions. Everybody make New Year's resolutions, and it comes to the second or third week of January, and we haven't been to the gym as many times as we promised we were going to be to the gym, or we haven't done the things that we've done. But we begin that new year with great hope. Hope I'm going to do this. Most resolutions fail because we attempt to do them on our own. That is the reality. If we have other people around us, there's a great ad on the radio, has been for years and years, for men's weight loss. And the catchphrase is, if you could do it alone, you would have done it already. So the hope is there, but we need each other to fulfill the reality of that hope. So our next action is all about hope, all about setting those resolutions for what we're looking forward to, what we're hopeful about. And many times action is better than words, so I'm going to zip it for a moment and let you think about the things that you are hopeful for. And then pluck a petal or two off of the roses that are in front of you. And bring that petal and float it in the water that is on the outside of our vessel this morning. So, what are you hopeful for as we are establishing the end of this church year and moving into the beginning of a new year? Advent is all about hope. So, think for a moment, feel for a moment, both head and heart. Pick a petal or two off the roses and bring it forward. So again, an opportunity to share in conversation about the things that were on your mind, on your heart as you brought those rose petals forward. Things that you are hopeful for the year that is upon us.
I put in a handful of petals because I have lots of hope in this congregation, and one of the biggest is that I can provide the leadership as chairperson to get us where our hope will lead us and where we want to go. That's the biggest one, but I hope to fill spaces again. I hope to go through another year if we struggle through it or if we're just flying through it. I don't know what's coming up, but I have hope that we will stay together as a group and as Holy Cross. And yeah, there's lots of hopes involved within those tasks ahead.
Other hopes, resolutions, things that you've set moving this point going forward. There was Thanksgiving offered before about our financial situation. I would echo that as a hope, that our finances will continue to be such that we can sustain the type of ministry that we have here. And that means sustaining our pastor's ability to be with us, paying the bills, keeping the lights on. That financial hope would be one that I would identify. Other hopes?
That we find some ways to connect with the people who need to hear that there's a different way of encountering this liberating truth, liberating experience of community, and looking at producing a video that can go on our website that captures that, and even creativity, finding the expression that is inviting.
Other hopes. It might be, I hope we sing my favorite hymn, because we haven't sung that one in a long time. Right? Maybe something simple like that.
Hopes that I'll find more consistent ways of taking the reflections and inspiration from here and translating that into action.
My hope was a little bit more selfish. I was focusing on a hope for good health and a positive way through the coming year for my family.
I don't know that I would call that selfish.
Well, I was focusing in.
Any other expressed hopes for the year to come that we can share with one another so that we can journey with you on it, right? If you could do it yourself, you would have done it already. And that sense of you share it with those that are gathered around, maybe we can help each other realize those hopes that are expressed for the year.
So I put in 3 rose petals, and the first one follows through from your comments, Bill. I have a real hope for healing in this community, and part of that is around the ability for us to converse at a really deep level that gets at the undercurrents that you were sensing, and also that deals with some of the really difficult conversations that we have to have together as a community and as a family. And so I have a real hope for healing and conversation and wisdom, the collective wisdom of this group to allow those fears and concerns that we have as a community for the sustainability of this community to rise to the surface. And however difficult those conversations are, that we're able to listen to one another and work towards healing. And the third, the desire for wisdom out of conversation. And the third thing is a hope for the voices that I miss, the folks that it's not just their voice, it's what their voice symbolizes, their whole person, and those people that we long for and grieve the loss of, that they might find healing and nourishment, if not here, in their lives in other places.
Any other final comments around your hopes for the year to come?
I hope that I can focus myself on the positive, what is, and worry less about the negative, what might happen.
Be in the moment almost, that sense of joy in the moment, so fears aren't paralyzing. Many of the songs incorporate all of these things in one song. The sense of thanksgiving, the sense of lament, the sense of hope. So they don't happen all in isolation. They are a mash of all of these things together. And I think we have seen that in some of our conversations, that there are some common threads that weave through that tapestry of our looking back and our looking forward. So I invite you to be aware of what you have heard from others, to take it to head and take it to heart, and how we might take these wonderful expressions of community moving forward. Our last song with this particular part of ritual is around hope, and I'm going to invite you to stand as we sing this.